and to offer us a further introductory welcome to our journey over the next 2 days. Delighted to welcome to the platform Johannes Langemeier from the Autonomous University of Barcelona, who is the scientific partner of Granollers and very much has a focus on co-design research, participatory approaches to address urban planning needs and develop nature-based solutions for sustainable cities. Ideal person just to offer us a few introductory words. Please welcome to the platform, Johannes Langemeier.
Thank you, Peter. Benvinguts, benvingudes to be here and together with our partner city, Granollers. I'm representing here the Autonomous University of Barcelona and within it, the Institute of Environmental Science and Technology. We are living in an urbanizing world. And this is what really strives me in doing research on cities. The decisions we are taking now in our cities, they will last for the next 20, 30, 50 years. And they will determine human well-being in cities in this future to come. INTERLACE has been committed to advance on nature-based solutions to address pressing challenges that we're facing in cities. That includes climate change adaptation, but that includes also multiple social challenges that cities are facing, and that also embeds bringing biodiversity back into our cities. Over the past few years, INTERLACE has worked to reconnect urban ecosystems, not only here in Granollers, but in multiple cities in Europe and in Latin America, including the metropolitan area of Krakow, Puerto Viejo in Ecuador, Envigado in Colombia, Chemnitz, and the metropolitan area of San Jose in Costa Rica. INTERLACE has also helped to bridge the gap between scientific innovations on the one hand side and the application of it in the urban context in practice within our partner cities. We have combined qualitative assessments with co-creation approaches, bringing together hard scientific knowledge and people in the cities to enable transformative change through nature-based solutions to a more biodiverse, inclusive, and resilient urban environment. It's exciting to see so many known and unknown faces and people here in the room. And during these 2 days, we are keen to share some of the core insights that the INTERLACE project has produced and get into discussion with those who are part of the project, but also with those that are beyond the project, to how to realize more of those ideas that we have been developed. This conference will be almost the final step of the INTERLACE project, but what we hope is that this will really be the seed for new collaborations, new scientific projects coming out of this, new science practitioner collaborations that we're facing here, but most importantly also new initiatives on the ground that enhance human well-being and nature in cities in the future. A warm welcome from my side, and I hope we're going to have a great conference over the next 2 days. Thank you.
The INTERLACE project feels big, but it's part of a global transformation thinking from being masters of nature and the environment. We are now realizing not that we should be servants to it, but we should be partners with it. This project is part of a much bigger endeavor. And I'm delighted to offer us perhaps a bigger picture thought about this whole agenda. I'm delighted, I hope online, that we are joined by Charles Karangwa, who is head of nature-based solutions at the IUCN. Charles leads efforts to promote sustainable solutions for land restoration and biodiversity. Charles, we can see you. Can you hear us? Wow, that's
I can hear you loud and clear.
That is fantastic. So Charles, over 18 years experience across Africa, Southeast Asia, Charles has worked at the intersection of climate change, ecosystem restoration, and sustainable finance. And recently, and congratulations, joined the COP28 high-level champion team to advise on nature-based solutions. So finally, we believe it is getting onto the agenda, which is really exciting. Charles, we're honoured that you are with us. We thank you for your time, and we invite you to offer us a few thoughts about effective design of healthy and resilient cities with nature-based solutions. Charles, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that very great introduction, and good morning, everyone. It's a pity I couldn't make it physically to be there. I had at the same time the European Mayors Forum in Geneva, which coincided exactly with this event, so I couldn't make it. But yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I will spend a couple of minutes talking about this topic and making that bringing it into cities and the context and why. Sorry, why. And probably why do we need this particular topic? So, but just to start, I work for IUCN, one of the world's largest environmental network of members. I think we have now reached about 1,400 plus member organizations, including states and non-states. And the good news also recently, IUCN approved or adopted a new category of membership, which is subnational government and municipalities. So we have cities of Paris, cities of Marseille, some other cities that have joined the union as well. So I just wanted to say it's quite a robust and such big organization with about 17,000 scientists working to guide and provide tools and instruments. And probably some of you are member of the commissions already that IUCN has as part of its structure. But yeah, and my role, as mentioned, is to work with partners like yours and different institutions and try to find how we can scale up nature-based solutions across the globe. And why do we talk about this? And someone mentioned, I think in one of the opening remarks, this came out very clear, but I don't want us to pay attention just to the fact that the numbers of people is increasing. I also want us to reflect on what does it mean for cities? I mean, in Europe in particular, there's a very big discrepancy between young and old population. And according to different research, the more you get older, the more you need green space, the more you need fresh air, the more you need to speak and talk and engage with nature as part of your mental and other physical health. So this is quite an informative numbers here that the population is going to increase. So urbanization is absolutely in Europe there, but globally in developing world is unstoppable, right? This is going to happen because we cannot change the fact. And as this happens, it's coinciding with an increase in a number of new diseases we have never experienced before as a result of climate, as a result of biodiversity loss, and somehow for many years people did not connect actually climate and biodiversity loss with human health. Until recently, IUCN is working on a number of concepts at the moment on One Health, and some of the findings in our work with WHO is that, in fact, we cannot isolate health out of nature, out of ecosystem. The health of ecosystems and the urban area, etc., really hugely affects the human health. And we have already recently lived, all of us, COVID-19 as one of the sad reality the world went through. And only nature was there for us. I mean, we couldn't approach a person, but we could at least go and lean on a tree in an urban area, or in a green, or in a garden. And that's where nature started talking to us in terms of health. But not only that, I mean, we are seeing an increase in fire risks in cities, especially. I mean, this slide's just from a very recent report from EU in terms of positioning or looking at different risks that cities and urban areas are facing. And you will see that there have been quite an increase. But this increase probably does not necessarily mean a lot unless we put it in the context of the bigger climate challenge that we are facing as a continent and as a whole globe. So this is another reality that we are facing. So regardless of all of this, I mean, and we do have an alternative, right? I didn't want to go into the details of flooding and the new realities of sea level rise, etc. But I think the reality is we have an alternative, and we have a choice to make, right? We can choose continue the development without nature, and at our own risk, humanity will perish and will perish with it, and that's the ecosystem collapse. But we can also choose the alternative, right? We can choose to work with nature, and this is the good news I hope we can get in this conference, and we can live with that excitement that whatever issues, and I like how the facilitator is doing this, connecting ourselves and connecting with the nature, that brings joy, enormous joy. But also it speaks to our economic system. So this is a choice we need to make as a community, as academicians, as researchers, as practitioners, as politicians, as investors. We need to make absolutely a choice between continue the conventional development versus working with nature for sustainable and resilient cities. And nature-based solution has been defined globally. I don't want to preach to a choir now that you are working a lot on this. And IUCN has officially endorsed this definition. And whereas we were the first to design or put out the definition in 2016, we have worked very closely with UNEP and UNEA to really have one globally agreed definition of what are nature-based solutions. And those are the things that many investors, many projects and government are all interested to do. But how do we scale that up? We need really these efforts, not just work in one small scale of 10 hectares here and there. We need to look at it as an option, and an option to really redirect our new model of sustainable cities and design and plan. And why do we need that? I mean, it has been already discussed. Climate change is a reality, and both we can adapt, we can mitigate if we work with nature. We have seen disaster than ever before in recent years. I mean, not only in Europe, but also across the globe, in America, in Asia, in Africa. This is a reality. I mean, disasters are actually increasing. I personally have a recent experience a year ago of where my country, I come from, Rwanda, in one of the province, we lost about 200 people, probably less than 200, but the infrastructure collapse was extremely big in terms of because of landslides and others. But also recently in Europe, right, in Germany, Brussels, and the Netherlands, and many other countries have faced, I mean, similar shocks. But we also talk about other economic issues, right? Water scarcity and food and health. They are all challenges that we are facing. And unless we decide to work with nature, all of these ecosystem services that we depend on, including in the urban area, I don't think we can actually manage to solve these just ourselves. And the good news is also that it's now globally recognized. You know, we used to work with some of the frameworks and you say, oh, what does the UN say about it? What does the climate convention talk about this? Does the land convention, the biological diversity convention? Now it's very official. These all reference it. But even the SDGs, I was reading the recently approved the Pact for the Future. Nature-based solution came as a very important element. We need to scale up actions to restore, protect, and conserve nature. So this came in, even in across different other topics. So we have now at least an opportunity to really scale up these nature-based solutions, continue investing, researching, and understanding the innovative approaches we can deploy to make our cities and urban areas much more sustainable. And we are not talking about a lot of science. I mean, this is also one of the piece of work I UC and have invested in a lot to remove the semantics about this concept. Yes, people say, yeah, what is the difference between this and ecosystem-based adaptation? But actually, nature-based solution brings together a number of solutions that could address the different challenges and across different ecosystems. And the more we work with nature and get return on biodiversity and return on resilience and return on economic sustainability, we are absolutely talking about nature-based solutions. And again, they are not working in silos, right? They are solutions that in cities and in development generally, we don't call nature-based solutions. They could be derived from nature, they could be inspired by nature. We have seen countries coming up with new building codes. We have seen green roofs. Those are really great initiatives that are inspired and contribute significantly, but we may not necessarily call them nature-based solutions, but they are very equally important. And I will not stay on this because it's very important to realize how nature-based solutions does not work in silos, especially in the urban area. We need to consider nature as a natural infrastructure, but actually works very, very, very in synergy with other great infrastructure that could be in cities. That's why they are cities, right? You have to have all this balance, but we cannot ignore the role of natural infrastructure. And I've seen new model of cities that are really developing that builds and puts nature at the center of sustainability of the cities and urban. and there are tools. I will not also delay on this, but there are several tools, including several that you have worked on over the last years as part of the project. But there are also many others are going to come. I mean, we need to have at least toolboxes that can help governments and mayors. As I said, I was attending the Mayors Forum yesterday from actually Monday. And one of the learning I did, the takeaway from that is that the nature-based solutions and nature generally was really the highly discussed topic throughout all the 2 days of the mayors, not only for economic resilience, but also for rights, for security, for peace, for health. Nature was always coming at the center, and it makes a lot of sense, right? So we need to put out toolboxes and tools that can help mayors and decision makers to plan better. And IUCN have, worked on this, and we have put out the global standard as part of that toolbox that can support design, implementation of effective nature-based solutions. There's been a lot of research and work that proved that this tool is effective and can help reduce greenwashing and put in all the kind of things. We have different case studies. We have 10 case studies from China. Feel free to look online. You have studied the business case from the Mediterranean cities. You can absolutely find that as well online. So there are already people who are taking actions, right? This is not something new. It's happening. We just need to scale that. We need to continue talk about it and raise awareness about it. And again, we have examples, right? So I come from Kigali. I wouldn't miss this one of the amazing innovation I saw of what we call biodiversity corridor by restoring all wetlands. All these wetlands were completely dead industrial parks or agricultural things. But now, with that decision, after realizing that the city will never be resilient and they never have space for water, they have decided to invest in restoring wetlands. And now about 4 chains of wetlands are going to be dedicated to that. But we also have many other cities in China. I mentioned the case in Europe, and etc. But this is one of the other examples of how we created a green sponge. Green sponge city is another concept that one of our global nature-based solution champion, Professor KG Young, is working on. And this is really a very innovative example. If you look at the history of this place, which I visited, I was very impressed by the innovation that can happen when we work with nature, not only for water security in this urban area, but also for other issues that even human health. I will close with a few messages. Future cities absolutely needs to integrate nature and nature-based solution in the planning process, not only the planning process, but also in the budgets. Very, very important. And we all know that for years, environment and nature generally has been the less funded sector. So we need to change that. Number two, we should really not delay the process of designing with nature. The future is now. We cannot just continue to say, we will do it, we will do it. We need to rethink and start doing that now. Do not reinvent the wheel. Let's build upon and scale up existing proof of concepts and apply existing knowledge. I mentioned these tools already that exist, but there are several others. And then finally, I mean, someone talked about it. I mean, integrated solution to complex problem requires innovative new partnerships. We need to work together. We need to work together. We cannot afford continue duplicates and fight over things and that. We need to bring our efforts together and support the cities to plan better and be more resilient with nature. I thank you for your attention.
Charles, thank you so much. You'll be delighted to know that the messages that you are sharing down to us very much resonate with the work that we are doing. And we hope, as well as a collaboration between our cities and our urban areas, we can also have a collaboration through to the international level so that we can offer some thoughts and ideas, case studies, that can be on your next slideshow when you go somewhere else around the world, but also keep providing us with the materials that you are producing, because that legitimizes the work we are doing. I just wonder, as ever, we are rich in case studies and about to move on to them here, but if you just had a personal final message for us, given that in this room there's up to 100 people who are individuals working within academic institutions, projects, programs, local government, all the time being pioneers, trying to encourage transition. It can be a hard task. There are barriers. For every one person that gets it, there are 5 who don't. There are financial pressures on local authorities, and then suddenly when we make progress, things can be swept away by flood or drought or problems that we know are coming. And I just wonder whether you have a personal message to us in the room that might help sustain us as we meet the many challenges ahead, that might kind of encourage us from this conference to move forward with a bit of renewed energy.
Thank you. Very, very good question. Let me say a couple of words. Number one, we are not alone in this battle. We have high, dedicated global leaders and champions and good mayors who think nature is a go-to place, who want to work with nature to make the cities resilient. So that's very important to recognize. Regardless of all those complexities, I mean, scientists and our development practitioners and our landscape architectures, we are not alone in the battle. So we have already some champions across different political constructs, and I experienced this with the Mayors Forum for Europe recently. That's one. Number two, I think one of the still pending barrier for scaling up and giving this very momentum a great push is the lack of the economics behind all what we talk about, right? And I want really to seed this into the team here as we work on scaling up nature-based solutions. Let's get into our economic models to show actually that these solutions we are talking about can also save and reduce the cost of investments that we have hugely wasted by just using only and working with concretes and finally not being able to solve the problem of water quality in the long term for generations. So that economic analysis behind nature-based solutions, business case, absolutely is something you still need to invest in and research. And then finally, let's work together. It's very nice to see people committed to work together in this battle.
Okay, thank you for those comments. I'm just going to see, time is never our, well, time is our friend, but we have so much to share. I'm just going to see whether there is one person in our participants who would like to ask a question up to IUCN level. Wave a hand vigorously if you'd like to just ask a quick question or make a comment to Charles. We have absorbed everything you have said, and I think we're okay. So Charles, you have said perfectly a wonderful introduction to our conference. Thank you. We wish you well. You have your own challenges, and feel just a burst of energy coming from INTERLACE saying you're doing the right things, keep doing it, and do more. But from all of us, we wish you well, and keep an eye on INTERLACE, because we can provide many solutions to the challenges that you are facing. So, ladies and gentlemen,
thank you.
To Charles. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. So I will present key insights on the INTERLACE policy and governance work, and I brought with me 3 key messages to share with you. So the first key message is, where there is a will, there is a way, and maybe it is the INTERLACE way. And this may sound trivial to you, but it is actually not. The cities, they faced many, many obstacles, many severe, unforeseen obstacles. And we asked a lot from the cities. The project asked a lot. And frankly speaking, honestly speaking, I was skeptical whether the cities would reach those goals, even without all these unforeseen obstacles. But they did. The cities succeeded because the cities wanted to succeed, because the cities wanted to implement not only interventions, but also processes and the governance tool. So that was very impressive. This is not an implementation-focused project, but the cities, they implemented a lot. And we heard it in the introduction. I'm not a city representative, so I can pour a lot of warm rain over the cities here. Furthermore, the cities paved the way politically and administratively for more nature-based solutions through the INTERLACE project. So the different cities all developed certain governance instruments, which is quite untypical because the project is a research project which usually does not fit to the political realities of cities. But they did develop governance instruments that are already implemented or that are ready to be implemented. And most of these instruments are planning tools or strategic tools. So they are setting the scene for future legislative activities, even beyond changes of the political landscape. And we have seen that throughout the project because we have had elections in several of the cities that brought changes, not only in the political landscape, but also within the staff of the cities. But the INTERLACE ideas to strengthen nature-based solutions, they survived those changes, and these are great achievements. But still not enough. The cities and the city networks, they invested in impulses to continue harvesting INTERLACE seeds in the future. And what do we mean by that? So all cities reflected on the impulses they wanted to give to their city beyond the project duration, be it to policymakers, to the administrations, to certain stakeholder groups within their cities, or to certain specific political committees that differed from city to city. The city looked inwards, what their needs are for the future, and adapted the impulses to their very own needs. So the target group of those impulses, impulse papers, they differ, and the form of these impulses differ as well. But all of them have been thoroughly developed, and we can already see the first effects of those impulse papers, although they were only finalized very recently, so they're kind of fresh from the press. And the same is true for city networks. We have had several city networks as partners in the project, and they have been active in exchanging best practices and also reflecting on the legacy of the project, also looking inwards to see how they can best integrate nature-based solutions in their future work. So to conclude with, I am very proud of what the cities have reached, and I hope that you are proud too, and I invite you to learn what the cities have reached more concretely in this panel and also throughout the next 2 days. Thank you. Hi.
Doris, thank you very much indeed for opening up this important aspect of the INTERLACE project. Going to move now on to looking at some of the key insights on planning, assessment and monitoring of NBS. And I'm delighted that we're joined by Isabel Melo, who is a Colombian biologist, experience in biological conservation, both in ecological and social aspects, and nature-based solutions. You work at the Humboldt Institute in Colombia, which is the National Institute for Biodiversity Research, which is a nature-based solution center. Isabel, great to have you with us and interested to hear some of your key insights.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. I'm going to speak Spanish. So, hola, buenos días.
Today, I feel super happy to be here on this final phase in this project. They asked me for this panel, what were the impacts that the work package that we worked on and participated on, what it had. The project is divided in work packages, basically, and the Institute, as well as with Barcelona National University, Autonomous University, had the task of designing a guide for planning, designing, and monitoring NBS solutions. So, just to briefly explain the process, what we did first was to research what already existed, like tools that were available. Then we created a pilot guide, and based on that guide, the 6 participating cities chose, according to their needs, which they wanted to apply, and every city applied one. And with all the lessons learned and all of the experiences that we had, we finished a guide that we expect can go further than this project and will be a legacy. So therefore, this guide, what it seeks to accomplish, or the task that we had, was to make it flexible enough to be able to be implemented in diverse and different phases in this implementation process, or designing or monitoring for NBS solutions, and sufficiently robust, scientifically robust enough, and also to incorporate social justice and environmental justice aspects. And we consider that unifying the multi-criteria analysis and the co-creation, this could be a great approach in order to achieve these 2 ambitions. So as I told you, the 6 municipalities or cities piloted this program, and with the lessons learned, we built the final guide. Now let's go back to the question that I was asked. I think it was Eva or Benedict that I had to answer here. So I divided this into 2 different aspects. What were the impacts for the cities? So we have 2 cities out of the 6, 2 of them they prioritized the space, and they were able to have a clear snapshot of their territory based on the risks and vulnerabilities that exist in order to understand where they can prioritize NBS solutions. For example, in the city of, or in the metropolitan area of Krakow, these results were planned, and they're going to be incorporated. They plan on incorporating it within their climate strategy that they are building at the metropolitan level. For the case of another 2 cities, Envigado, city of Envigado in Colombia, and Chemnitz in Germany, that designed a monitoring strategy for nature-based solutions that were implemented at this particular moment. In the case of Envigado, we were able to have this design be one step forward, and it's going to be implemented. So they built an action plan to be implemented in the next few months, and it includes monitoring of impacts on NBS solutions. It also includes social aspects, climate actions, and biodiversity. And also, another two cities, Granollers and Puerto Viejo in Ecuador, selected the module, the design module, or the co-design module. They chose the co-design, and they were able to incorporate, for example, in Puerto Viejo, Ecuador, which is where that picture comes from, the last picture, they were able to incorporate blue and green structures in their planning of an area for recovery of an area, basically, in one of their major rivers in the Puerto Viejo region. And finally, how are we doing with time? Okay. Well, finally, we also considered after the interviews that we contributed to the way of doing things within these cities, because with the approach, the participatory approach, we were able to support different multidisciplinary processes. Not only within the organizations and the local governments, we were able to have the different participants, the city participants, to collaborate amongst different offices and departments and build and co-create processes that were multidisciplinary, but also with different stakeholders, different community stakeholders, so that we can incorporate different values into these co-creation processes, and so they could be reflected in or within the final products. In this case, we want to, it's very difficult to highlight because all of them are great examples, so it's very difficult to choose, but let me just give you an example. In Granollers, they created different organizations for participation that unify and unite and meet regularly with their citizens, with their public, to discuss and engage in dialogue upon the projects that they were using the guide for. The same thing happened in the municipality of Envigado in Colombia, where they were able to incorporate different local experts that had expertise in their field, that had worked with wildlife groups or people that had lots of knowledge, and they were able to participate in the construction of the strategy. As I told you, with these lessons learned, I'm about to finish. Creo que ya terminé, bueno. Pero I think I just finished, but with the experience that we had and with the interviews that we did, we were able, or we want to incorporate this within a guide that we hope goes beyond INTERLACE, that anybody can use. In fact, we already have a published version in English, and in these next few days, you'll get to see it better. And very soon we'll have a Spanish version as well, which will be available for any city to be able to use it. Thank you so much.
As you will have heard and hear many times, citizen engagement is at the heart of that transformation process. And I'm delighted we're joined this morning by Paul Mahoney, who is General Manager of OPLA, which is the EU repository of nature-based solutions, which has a mission to connect communities around the world in creating, sharing, and safeguarding environmental knowledge. Paul is a communications specialist, over 30 years experience in the environmental sector. So to offer us some thoughts around some of the citizen engagement activities, please welcome Paul Mahoney.
Thank you. Over 30 years, where's that time gone? I'm going to be quick. You'll hear a lot of praise for the cities over the next couple of days from INTERLACE, and that praise is very well justified. We've had fantastic city partners in this project who've been very imaginative and innovative in how they've undertaken all of the different aspects of the project, and citizen engagement is certainly one of those. This work's been coordinated by my friend Fene Diaz, who's here today at the back from WWF Colombia, and Fene and I have been working on Work Package 5, which has been coordinating this work. And the engagement program with INTERLACE, we wanted to really think about how can we creatively bring citizens into our project. And And the first thing really is that, we often think about citizens as being somehow separate from us, but we're citizens, yeah? So that was the first thing we realized, is that we're really, how do we open the doors of a project like this to everybody, and people of all ages as well. And we've used a sort of a mixed media approach of community arts, digital gaming, I'll talk about some of these components in a moment, citizen science, and outdoor learning tours. And we wanted to provide a menu of different options through which people can come and talk to us about nature-based solutions, and importantly, methods by which we can learn from them as well. So it was a two-way conversation. And we've reached a lot of people, so we've reached more than 2,500 people, and that is people in person, that's not just online engagement, that's real interactions with real people. And it was made challenging by COVID at the start of the project, but we actually exceeded the key performance indicators for the project by the end. Community arts has been a really great way to talk about nature-based solutions with people. It's something obviously that's very visible. It creates a lasting impression of the project in the community. We've used community arts to help people talk about why is nature important to them, which species are important to them, what does a place of nature look like. You can see examples here. I think this is from Costa Rica. We've been using learning tours and citizen science. The team in Chemnitz came up with the idea of doing a digital app to help enable this, so they were very enterprising. And again, this is quite a traditional method, but it's a great way to get people out into the environment together as a group, asking questions, seeing the work for themselves firsthand, often work that's in their own communities. And something that we've been leading at Opla has been this work using digital gaming. We wanted to meet children and young people in their own space. I think quite often in our community we try and bring young people into our space, and they're not always that interested. So we wanted to go and meet them where they are, and we used the Minecraft video game. You may not be familiar, but it's like online Lego bricks, and you can rebuild and reshape environments using Minecraft. We did this in all of the cities. It was very successful. I can talk about that over coffee with anyone who's interested. But we found that video games are a really great way of engaging people. And the children produced actually some really good nature-based solutions. This wasn't just a learning exercise. They came to the table as participants, and we learned from them. And what do we learn from this? Well, it works. Citizen engagement shouldn't be seen as a soft subject and something you do just because it's nice. It generates real outputs. It's a two-way relationship. We very much learned from the citizens that we engaged in the project. It makes people active participants. They're not just passive. They're not just listening to us share knowledge. They bring their own knowledge, and it lets people do things. They become enabled. We've learned that engagement needs follow-up. We've had a fantastic response from our cities. A lot of the cities are continuing the work beyond the project now. If we could do this again, I would like to have had more budget to do that follow-up. We always need more budget, yeah? But this is an area where we've had a great response. So if you're planning a citizen engagement project, don't be cheap. Have a good budget for it. We didn't need to support the cities as much as we expected. They did a lot of this themselves with very little intervention from us in some cases, which was fantastic. It's not difficult to do this. You don't need to hold people's hand all the time. Let them do things their own way. And this last point might seem patronizing to children, but children are much more capable than we imagined. Through the Minecraft activity, the solutions they designed were very implementable solutions. We had members of city planning team looking at their ideas and thinking, actually, that's something we could go and build. And we should bring young people to the table as much as possible. They have a different perspective on the world. They have different priorities. They're sometimes more creative. It's not just about them learning from us. We should learn from them. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Paul. And I've no doubt many of our conversations are going to be around citizen engagement, fundamental to creating any shift and change. Our final little insight at this stage coming from the project is about connecting and working with other local stakeholders to accelerate local action in the project. And again, I'm delighted that we're joined by Marcela Gutierrez, who's a professor at the Center for General Studies of the National University of Costa Rica. Dr. Gutierrez has a long career in public health and health promotion. She works on projects related to human development, health determinants, and well-being, with a focus on ecosystem services. This just showing the multiplicity of values of nature-based solutions. Please welcome Marcela to the platform.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Can I see my presentation, please?
It could be...
Okay.
No.
A mí me pidieron que les trajera
Me to bring you the 3 key messages for this process of involving the community within the INTERLACE project. The project works with a knowledge broker, which each city had a knowledge broker. I was the knowledge broker in CIBIMA. Our role consisted in being the link between the work packages and the cities. At the beginning, this was all of a challenge because in my particular case, I did not know the city. I knew the city, but not the actual people that worked in the city. So that implied, or that meant that I had to get close to the city, to get close to the institutions. And today I bring you 3 key messages. The first key message: nature-based solutions are key elements for the well-being of people, for ecosystemic services, for the quality of life, and we cannot do this alone. We need to involve communities. We have to get closer to the different actors and people so that things become possible. Our solutions, the solutions that the community proposes, are not going to be sustainable if they're not involved. So we always need to involve these communities from the very diverse institutions that work in this project, get close to them and ensure that these communities, like, awaken with them, pick that interest so they can become involved, so that they keep this work going and so they continue to work. That is the only way to achieve change, the only way to achieve interventions so that they're persistent and they can be maintained by themselves. Once again, we believe we created links. The work in the collaborative approach is important. We cannot do things alone. In CIBIMA, which is a city that I worked with, we were able to create links with many different stakeholders throughout the territory. Many people work there, and sometimes we don't even know what people do. So it's very important for us as knowledge brokers that the diverse institutions get to know each other, that they understand what they're doing, that they search for partnerships, that try to work on the good, trying to seek a common good. At the end, we want the good for the territory. At the end, we're trying to find all good things for the territory and the people. And if we do this jointly, we'll achieve way more. And the other thing, this is one of the teachings, one of the learnings, one of the most complex learnings that requires the most time. But behind INTERLACE, we have worked for over 4 years with the communities, and we were able to construct or build credibility and relationships with the communities. And how did we accomplish this? Via work, via demonstrating our involvement, our true involvement, via meeting with these communities, constantly visiting, having constant exchanges with them. I think that frankness and sincerity is noticed. People feel that the institutions truly want to see change. We're not just complying with a checkbox, but we're also interested in truly what we are, what they are. We're interested in their problems. We want to find the change, and building these relationships, only time allows for these relationships. So we need to learn about the actors, meet them, get involved with them, get to know them, and that way we are going to be able to transform and become part of that transformation of these territories, responding to their needs, those true needs and real needs that we all have. Thank you.